Alrighty, thank you everybody. I appreciate you joining me and being on time to this very important class. We're very relevant to open season. I see that there are more people entering the room, so I'm just going to give you a few more seconds for more people to enter. I also want to say thank you for those who were able to accommodate the time change. I had to shuffle my schedule to make things happen, so I appreciate you guys coming to this class even though the time slot was moved. And even for those who can't stay for the whole thing, just rest assured there's going to be a recording of this class, and it's going to be sent out via email to whoever registered. So even if you can't stick around for the whole thing, you'll at least get the recording of it. Okay, I see a lot of people have joined. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic, FSA versus HSA, flexible spending accounts versus health savings accounts. Very juicy topic. I'm excited to share with you guys the material, but before I dive into the material, let me first remind everybody, these classes do not happen in a vacuum. These classes happen because I have people that are supporting what I do. I have my clients, I have my members. These people keep me in business. They keep me operational. They give me words of encouragement as well to push me forward. So if you know somebody who is a client of mine or a member of mine, go ahead and give them a hug. And if you would like to become a client or a member of mine, you can do so. I'll show you how to do so at the end of today's class. You'll have the ability to request some more information from me and learn how to become a client or a member. Okay, without further ado, let us dive in. We're going to start off talking about the flexible spending accounts, FSA, flexible spending accounts. You could use your FSA to pay for healthcare and dependent care with tax-free money. That's right. And when I say tax-free money, you're going to be saving taxes on multiple levels. You're going to be saving federal tax, state tax, Social Security tax, Medicare tax. If you add all these things together, like I do on the slide, on the federal level, let's assume you're going to be in the 24 bracket. On the state level, obviously it varies state by state. But let's just say 6%, Social Security 6.2, Medicare is 1.45. If you add it all up, that's 37.65% tax savings. Wowzer. So if you put in the maximum to your FSA, which the maximum is $3,200 for the 2024 season. They just upped those numbers. So for 2024, it's going to be $3,200. If you put the maximum in $3,200 and you're saving 37.65%, you are saving $1,200 in taxes. So basically what this means is if you are expecting to have any medical expenses, any dental expenses, any vision expenses, you have a choice. You could pay for those expenses through your FSA and it will save you in taxes, or you could pay for those expenses not through your FSA and you won't save the taxes. Obviously, if you were given the choice, you probably would rather pay those expenses through the FSA and save the taxes. Why not? So the FSA is an amazing vehicle, and there are different types of FSAs. I'm sure you're familiar with the regular healthcare FSA. The healthcare FSA allows you to pay for health deductibles, co-insurances, co-pays, dental, vision, chiropractic, acupuncture. There's many items that are considered eligible expenses for the healthcare FSA. This is very well known. However, this is not so well known. The Lex FSA. Lex stands for limited expense FSA. It's an FSA that only covers limited expenses such as dental and vision, and that is it. So it's an FSA that only covers dental and vision, and that is it. So this is a different type of FSA. It's not the regular FSA. It's a Lex FSA. Now, it's very strange. Why would a person need a Lex FSA for dental and vision if they already had the regular FSA? Because the regular FSA already covered my dental and vision expenses. So why do I need to have a second FSA to cover dental and vision? Let me strengthen the question. In order to have a Lex FSA, you cannot have a regular FSA and a Lex FSA at the same time. So if you're going to choose a Lex FSA, you're choosing that over the regular FSA. Now let's think about this. Remember, the Lex FSA only covers dental and vision. The regular FSA covers dental and vision and everything else. So if I gave you the choice, which one would you choose? Would you choose the Lex FSA, which only covers dental and vision, or would you choose the regular FSA, which covers dental and vision and everything else? I know it's a very tough choice, isn't it? Let me strengthen the question even further. In order to have a Lex FSA, you must be enrolled in an HDHP. Ooh, HDHP stands for High Deductible Health Plan. High Deductible Health Plan. In order to have a Lex FSA, you must be enrolled in a high deductible plan. But the regular FSA does not require you to be in a high deductible plan. You could choose whatever health insurance plan you wish. And remember, you can't have a regular FSA and the Lex FSA yet at the same time. You have to choose. So if I give you the choice, you could choose the Lex FSA, which forces you into a high deductible plan, or you could choose the regular FSA, which lets you have any plan you wish. You could choose the Lex FSA, which only covers dental and vision, or you could choose the regular FSA, which covers dental and vision and everything else. If I gave you that choice, who in their right mind would choose a Lex FSA over a regular FSA? Believe it or not, there's a fantastic answer to this question. Fantastic answer. And in order to explain the answer to the question, I have to introduce you guys to something which works just like FSA, but it has many, many, many advantages. What is this thing that works just like FSA, but it has many advantages? It's called the HSA. HSA stands for Health Savings Account. The HSA is just like the FSA. You put money into that account and you use that money for your medical expenses. And the money that you put into the account is going to reduce your taxable income. So it works just like FSA, but it has many, many, many advantages. And I have on this slide a list of some of the advantages that the HSA has. The first advantage is you could sock away more money. So as we just said, with the FSA, you could sock away $3,200. That's the new number for 2024. Well, guess what? HSA, you could sock away more than that. How much could you put into an HSA actually depends on what type of health insurance plan do you have. Do you have a self-only plan or do you have a self+1 family plan? If you have a self-only plan, you could put $4,150. That's the new numbers for 2024, $4,150. If you have a self+1 family plan, you could put $8,300. $8,300. So you could put more money into your HSA account. Oh, and guess what? For those who are age 55 plus, you could put $1,000 of a catch-up contribution. So instead of putting $4,150, you can now do $5,150. That's if you have self-only. If you have self+1 family, instead of doing $8,300, you could do $9,300. And guess what? It's $1,000 catch-up contribution for each HSA account holder. So the truth is, if you have an HSA account and your spouse has an HSA account, each one of you could do $1,000 catch-up contribution. So that is a lot of money you could sock away pre-tax. So for example, let's say you're putting in $8,300 into your HSA and you're saving 37.65%. Now your tax savings is over $3,000, over $3,000 of tax savings. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, but Stefan, I don't know if I want to put in $8,300. That's a lot of money. What if I don't use it? If I don't use it, aren't I subject to use or lose? Well, guess what? There's no use or lose with HSA. Now, that is a game changer, because what that means is you could intentionally put the entire $8,300 in, knowing full well you're not going to use all $8,300, and whatever's left over, it just carries over into the next year. No use or lose. And next year, you can make another $8,300 contribution. So basically, this year, $8,300, next year, $8,300, next year, $8,300. You could start accumulating your money in this account. There is no account maximum. In addition to accumulating your contributions, The money can be invested. So not only is your HSA account growing with your own contributions, but now it's even growing with market performance. I know some people with hundreds of thousands of tax-free dollars in their HSA. Hundreds of thousands. It's unbelievable. And it gives you access to a broader range of qualified expenses. Meaning, there are some expenses that are not qualified for FSA, but they are yes qualified for HSA. I'll give you a few of my favorite examples. The first example, long-term care insurance premiums. That is not a qualified expense for FSA, but it is yes a qualified expense for HSA. What that means is you could pay for your long-term care insurance with tax-free money. Next, Medicare premiums. Now, whether you should have Medicare or not, that's a separate conversation. In fact, that's a conversation we're going to have at our next webinar in December. So keep your ears open for the invitation to that next webinar, whether you should have Medicare. But if you decide that you want to have Medicare, you could pay for your Medicare premiums tax-free with HSA money. It's a qualified expense for HSA, but it's not a qualified expense for FSA. Also, COBRA premiums, if anybody ever lost their insurance and needed to pick up the extension through COBRA, that is something you could pay those COBRA premiums with HSA. It is not a qualified expense, however, for FSA. And by the way, there are other small categories of things that you can do with HSA that you cannot do with FSA either. So I'd encourage you guys to look into what is considered qualified versus non-qualified, because there are many things on the list that are qualified for HSA, not qualified for FSA. Oh, and it gets even sweeter. You can access your HSA money in retirement. You can access HSA money in retirement, and you could contribute to your HSA even in retirement. This is unbelievable. That means you're getting tax benefits even in retirement. Now, I want you guys to think about this. You can access the money in retirement. That's big, because what's one of those expenses that seems to go up as people get older and later in life? What's one of those expenses? And the answer is medical expenses, healthcare related expenses. As people get older, they typically have more healthcare and medical related expenses. Well, guess what? Once you retire, can you access your FSA to pay for your medical expenses in retirement? And the answer is no. FSA? There is no FSA once you retire. No way. No way. Oh, and guess what? Let's say a person has a medical expense in retirement and they take a distribution from their TSP, from their traditional TSP. Are they going to owe income tax on that distribution from their traditional TSP if they use it for medical expenses? And the answer is, of course they will. Of course they will. However, if you have a medical expense in retirement, you could take a distribution tax-free from your HSA for the rest of your life. So you could access your HSA money tax-free always and forever, Whether you're 20 years old, 60 years old, 100 years old, it's tax-free always. And you can even request reimbursements in retirement. In retirement. So what that means is, if you have a medical expense when you were 20 years old, you can actually save the bill, save the receipts, and you submit for reimbursement in retirement. So that just adds to your retirement income. You could take a tax-free distribution in retirement. Oh my goodness. And I'll make it even sweeter. Once you reach the age of 65, you could start using your HSA money for non-medical expenses. So for example, if you want to pay your bills, you can use your HSA money. If you want to buy yourself a new car, if you want to take a vacation, you can use your HSA money for those non-medical expenses once you're age 65 plus. Now, before you guys get too excited about that example, non-medical expenses you will owe income tax on. Those are not tax-free distributions. You're going to owe income tax on that. But you know what? That's no worse than your TSP. If you took a TSP to buy a new car or to pay for a vacation, wouldn't you owe taxes on that TSP distribution? Of course you would. If it's traditional, of course you would. So this is no worse than your TSP. It just has the added benefit that you could take tax-free distributions on your medical expenses, whether it's medical expenses that you had in retirement or even medical expenses that you had prior to retirement that you never got reimbursed for from your HSA. Holy moly. Are you guys hearing what I'm describing? What I'm describing over here is FSA on steroids. Who in their right mind would not do an HSA? So I have three categories of people who wouldn't and one category who shouldn't. Three categories of people wouldn't. What are the three categories of people that would not do an HSA? So the first category is those who didn't know about it, obviously. The second category, those who were scared away when they saw it requires an HDHP. Ooh. Does anybody know what HDHP stands for? High Deductible Health Plan. High Deductible Health Plan. Okay. So before we get into high deductible versus low deductible, does anybody even know what is a deductible? What does that even mean, a deductible? So a deductible is the amount of money you have to pay out of your pocket first before the insurance starts paying out of their pocket. So before they start doing their co-insurance and their contributions, so before they start doing any of that stuff, you have to satisfy your deductible. Now, a low deductible means that you have to pay a little bit of your money and then the insurance starts kicking in sooner. A high deductible means you have to pay more of your money and the insurance kicks in later. Now, how high does the deductible need to be in order to satisfy a high deductible? So the IRS sets this limit, and I have to double check the numbers for 2024, but I remember in 2023, the limits were, it depends whether you have a self-only or self-plus-one family. On the self-only, $1,500, and on the self-plus-one family, $3,000. That's what it was in 2023. If I remember correctly, for 2024, the self-only is $1,600 deductible, and the self-plus-one family is $3,200. So you know what that means? That means if you have medical expenses of $3,200, you're on the hook for the first $3,200 of medical expenses. Now, when people hear that, they say, I don't know, Stefan, that sounds really scary, be on the hook for that first $3,200. I know it sounds scary, but when you investigate it, you'll see it's actually not that scary. Because what happens is when you raise your deductible with your health insurance, what does that do to the price of the insurance premiums? The insurance premiums, they go down. They go down. And they don't just go down by a little bit. No. They usually go down by much more substantially than just a little bit. It's not just like $1 or $2. Very often it's like $50 a pay period, or $100 a pay period, or sometimes even $150 per pay period. I kid you not. I'll show you some numbers very soon. So let's just do the math on this, okay? If you're saving $100 per pay period, how much are you saving over 26 pay periods? So 100 times 26, that's $2,600. So you're saving $2,600 in premiums. What was your deductible again? $3,200 deductible? Oh, so that means you have to pay $3,200, but you already saved $2,600. So your out-of-pocket exposure for your deductible is really how much? $600. $600. I know. That sounds very, very scary. And you know what? I'll make it even scarier. When you open a high deductible plan with your FEHB, the FEHB plan will give you money back. I kid you not. They will open an HSA account for you, and they will put money into the HSA account for you to spend on your medical expenses. How much money do they put in the HSA account? So it actually depends on whether you have a self-only versus a self-plus-one family. On the self-only side, $900. On the self-plus-one family side, $1,800. So let's do the math on this. If you're saving $100 per pay period, that's $2,600 a year, and then they give you back an additional $1,800. So now your savings is up to $4,400. I know, that's so scary. Oh, and by the way, when you're adding up all your savings, don't forget to include the tax savings on your contributions to the HSA. So if you're putting in $8,300, you're saving $3,000 in taxes. So add that $3,000 to your total savings. So if your savings was $4,400 and then you add an additional $3,000, now your savings is up to $7,400 in savings. I know. It's so scary. What am I going to do with all this money? We have completely lost sight as to why we have insurance. Completely lost sight. Let me share with you how far our thinking has come. So I live in Maryland right now, but I'm originally from New York. I don't know if anybody here is from the New York area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. Okay. So when I was in New York, this was 20 years ago. When I was in New York 20 years ago, I was paying $10,000 a year for my health insurance. $10,000 a year. By the way, I have a brother that lives in Connecticut. He's paying $33,000 a year for his health insurance now. $33,000. Okay, so anyhow, back to my story. 20 years ago, I was paying $10,000 a year for my health insurance. I moved from New York to Maryland, and in Maryland, that's when I discovered these high deductible plans. And the high deductible plan that I found, the premium was $4,000. So instead of $10,000, it's $4,000. That means I'm saving $6,000. I was very excited. I signed up right away. I even told some of my other friends, the ones that I knew from New York, they were very excited. They signed up right away as well. And I'll never forget some of the criticisms that my friends leveled at these HSA accounts, at these high deductible plans. Listen to their critique because it reveals how far our thinking has come. So I had one friend approach me, he says, Stefan, I have to admit these high deductible plans, they bother me. I looked at him and I said, why? What bothers you? He says, I'll tell you what bothers me. Every time I go to the doctor, I have to pay something towards the visit. So whether it's the $30 copay or $100 for the examination or $150 for the lab work or $180 for the x-ray. Stefan, when I was in New York, I never had to reach into my pocket for anything. I could not believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked at this person and I said, let me make sure I'm clear on what you're saying. So you're saying that reaching into your pocket for the $30 copay, that bothers you. But paying $6,000 more a year in premiums, you're okay with that? And I love the way he said it to me. He said, Stefan, when I was in New York, I never had to reach into my pocket for anything. I said, really? Whose pocket did the $6,000 in premiums come from? Oh my goodness, you didn't notice that? That was the first conversation. Very revealing. I had another conversation with a different friend at a different time. Listen to their critique. They said, Stefan, I have to admit these high deductible plans, they bother me. I said, why? What could possibly bother you? He looks at me and he says, I'll tell you what bothers me. I never reach my deductible. So it turns out that I'm paying for this insurance, but the insurance never pays a penny for me. So why do I have this insurance? I looked at him and I said, that's a great question. Why do you have the insurance? Please tell me, do you have the insurance so that when you get a paper cut, the insurance will pay for the ointment and the Band-Aid for your boo-boo? Is that why you have insurance, for the little boo-boos? Why do you have insurance? I'm asking you guys. Why do you have insurance? Is it for the little boo-boos? Is that why you have it? I think we all would agree the reason why we have insurance is for the big boo-boos. And I'll share with you guys a dirty little secret. Check out the high deductible plans that are offered through FEHB. And they have something called an out-of-pocket maximum. Out-of-pocket maximum. Okay? Check out the out-of-pocket maximum on these high deductible plans and compare it to the out-of-pocket maximum on your current FEHB plan. And you know what you may discover? You may discover that the out-of-pocket maximum on the high deductible plans is sometimes lower than the out-of-pocket maximum that you guys have on your current FEHB plans. I'm not joking. Let me show it to you. Let me see if I could share with you guys my screen. Okay, here you go. There you go. I'm going to share the screen. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay, I hope you guys can see my screen over here. This is, just so you guys can see this, this is OPM's website. Here's the 2024 FEHB plans, and we're looking for the health insurance plans in my zip code. So I live in Baltimore 21209, so you guys could check your own zip code. By the way, if you're in Baltimore, if you're in Maryland, DC, Virginia, you probably have similar plans we'll probably share similar plans. If you're outside of the DC metro area, so then maybe you'll have different plans. Okay, but we're going to look at some plans. I want you guys to check this out. This column right over here, the annual out-of-pocket maximum. Okay, so anybody here, you'll see this column. It says annual out-of-pocket maximum right over here, out-of-pocket maximum. Now, you'll notice some of them have relatively high out-of-pocket maximums. So, for example, this Aetna plan, relatively speaking, it is higher than other plans, $15,000. That's relatively high. Now, you'll notice some other Aetna plans have lower out-of-pocket maximum, $10,000. Now, let me scroll down a little bit further. I want to show you guys something. I'm actually going to scroll specifically to a very popular plan. Are you guys familiar with this plan right over here? Blue Cross Blue Shield Standard. Is there anybody here who's familiar with the Blue Cross Blue Shield Standard plan? I believe this is the most popular plan in the federal government. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some people on this class right now that have this Blue Cross Blue Shield Standard plan, a very popular plan. And how much is this Blue Cross Blue Shield plan going to be costing you? So let's see. If you have a family plan, it's going to cost you $370 per pay period. $370 per pay period. I want you to compare this Blue Cross Blue Shield Standard plan versus this plan right over here, the Care First Blue Choice HDHP. This is a Blue Cross Blue Shield network in the Maryland, D.C. area. This is the Blue Cross Blue Shield network, but it's a high deductible plan. And how much are they charging you? $199. So instead of charging you $370, they're charging you $199. Let's do the math. $370 minus $199. That means you'll be saving how much every pay period? You'll be saving $171 every pay period. $171. Oh my goodness. So if you're saving that every pay period, what happens if you multiply 171 by 26 pay periods? Well, if you do the math, 171 times 26, that's $4,446 of premium savings that year. That means by you switching plans, you will save at least $4,446. I say at least because remember, they're going to be giving you back money if you have a high deductible plan. So they're going to give you $1,800 right over here, $1,800. So do the math. $4,446 plus another $1,800. That means your savings is $6,246. That means by you switching plans, you will save at least $6,246. That's just your premium savings. That does not even include the tax savings on the HSA. Oh my goodness. So this plan, this Care First plan, it charges you less. They give you money. And now let me just point out what I was saying before. What about the out-of-pocket maximum? The catastrophic exposure for the big boo-boos. So on the standard plan, the out-of-pocket maximum is $12,000. However, on this high deductible plan, the out-of-pocket maximum is $10,000. Oh my goodness. That means, let me get this straight. You had a choice. You could have chosen the high deductible plan. And had you chosen the high deductible plan, you would save at least $4,400 in premiums. They would give you back another $1,800. You could save an additional $3,000 in tax savings. You could lower your catastrophic limit down to $10,000. You could have had all of that, but nah. I'd rather spend $4,000 more on my premiums. I'd rather not be given the $1,800, and I'd rather increase my out-of-pocket exposure and not have any benefits of the HSA. Am I hearing you correctly? Are you hearing yourself correctly? And by the way, lest you say, Stefan, that's very nice for you. You live in the DC metro area. You have this Care First high deductible plan. But what about us that are outside the DC metro area? We don't have this plan. You know what? You're right. You don't. But guess what? There are other plans. Let me introduce you to, where is it? Right over here. This plan, GEHA, the GEHA high deductible plan, GEHA, high deductible plan. And by the way, I want you to know something about this GEHA plan. This GEHA plan costs you less than the Care First plan. So that means if it costs you less than the Care First high deductible plan, it's going to be saving you even more money in premiums. So instead of $370, now you're paying $188. Oh my goodness. In addition to that, they give you back $2,000, not just $1,800. They give you back $2,000. They give you more money back. Now, the out-of-pocket maximum over here is also $12,000. So you have to look over here. It's the same out-of-pocket maximum as the standard plan. But my point is as follows. You could have been saving at least $6,600 with this plan and have all the benefits of the HSA. But nah, I'd rather spend $6,600 more and not have the benefits of the HSA. Why? Why would you do that? Anybody here who's choosing those plans that are costing you $6,000 more, you really have to ask yourself, am I getting the $6,000 in benefits? Am I getting the $6,000 in benefits that I'm paying, that I'm paying for by paying $6,000 more for the insurance? Okay. And by the way, you might say that, Stefan, what about for somebody who has high medical expenses? I'm going to come back to you in just a second. Okay. But my point is as follows, that this high deductible plan is really, really a very, very strong plan. Let me come back to my screen. Okay. So let me share my slides. Excuse me. Go back to those slides. Okay. Fantastic. So with this being said, coming back, there you go. Okay. So back to my point. Who would not do an HSA? So I said there are 3 people who wouldn't do an HSA. Number 1, those who didn't know about it. Number 2, those who were scared away when they saw it requires an HDHP, okay? High deductible health plan. But as we just discovered, the high deductible health insurance plan is really not that scary for a number of reasons. Number 1, it costs you less money. Number 2, they give you back money. Number 3, there's the tax savings of your HSA contributions. Number 4, they sometimes have lower catastrophic exposures for the big boo-boos. So, who's the third category that would not do the HSA? And the answer is those who cannot do the HSA because they are enrolled in Medicare. Once you are enrolled in Medicare, you can no longer contribute to an HSA. Now, you guys are probably wondering, Stefan, when you say Medicare, which part of Medicare are you talking about? Are you talking about Part A or are you talking about Part B? Because I know Part A is free and Part B is the one that costs you money. So are you talking about the Part B one that costs you money? Guess what? I'm talking about any part of Medicare, even Part A. That's right, the free Part A. And I know that you guys are very disappointed because you were saying to yourself, wait a second, Stefan, Part A is free. Free sounds so good. What could possibly be wrong with free? Well, guess what? This is what's wrong with free. Meaning, when you are enrolled in Medicare Part A, you are no longer able to make contributions to your HSA. So it turns out that Medicare Part A isn't exactly free. Nuh-uh. It costs you. It costs you your ability to contribute new money to an HSA. You could still access the old money, so the old money's not gone, but you just cannot contribute new money. So it turns out that there's a little gotcha. Even with the free Part A, there's a little gotcha. Once you're enrolled in Medicare Part A, you can no longer contribute to HSA. Now, by the way, for anybody here who's planning on having Medicare, and guess what? You're all going to have Medicare at some point, even the Part A. You're all going to have Medicare Part A because Medicare Part A becomes mandatory if you are a 65-year-old collecting Social Security. So anybody here who's going to be 65 plus and collecting Social Security at some point in your life, and that's going to happen, well, you're going to have Medicare Part A at that point. So you know what that means? That means once you're on Medicare, you can no longer make contributions to your HSA. So what that means is this is a limited time offer. Act now while supplies last because the party is over when you enroll in Medicare, which is probably going to be at the age of 65. Now, I have good news for you. If somebody has Medicare and they're no longer able to make future contributions to an HSA, so does that mean that there's no longer any benefit to having a high deductible plan? Let me repeat that question. If somebody is enrolled in Medicare, so they can no longer contribute new money to the HSA, does that mean there's no longer any benefit to having a high deductible plan? And the answer is there definitely is a benefit. There's a huge benefit. You know what the benefit is? Well, a couple of benefits, actually. Number one is it's cheaper. It's cheaper, as I just showed you. The price of these high deductible plans is usually significantly cheaper than the non-high deductible plans. So if you're going to have Medicare with your FEHB, if you're going to have both, which again, whether you should or shouldn't do that, that's a different conversation. But if you decide that you're going to have Medicare with your FEHB, why should you have an expensive FEHB? Why don't you just choose the less expensive high deductible plans? Okay, so that's one benefit of having a high deductible plan, even though you're enrolled in Medicare. There's another benefit. You're right that you cannot make contributions to your HSA, but guess what? The FEHB plan will still give you money. They're still going to give you their $900 or their $1,800, or in the GEHA plan, $2,000. However, the money that they give you is not going to go into an HSA account. It's going to go into an HRA account. HRA, it stands for Health Reimbursement Arrangement. It's very similar to HSA. You can use it for medical expenses. However, the big difference is the HSA is portable. The HRA is not portable. What that means is if you leave that insurance plan and you go to a different insurance plan, what happens to the money? Well, if it's HSA money, the HSA money follows you wherever you go. The HSA money is literally your money. Your contributions, the money they put into the account, that's literally your money. You can use that money for the rest of your life, even if you switch to Medicare, even if you switch to a low deductible plan, even if you pass away, the money goes to a beneficiary. It's literally your money. That's with the HSA. However, the HRA is not portable. What that means is if you leave that health insurance plan, the money in the HRA gets left behind. Yeah, I know. It's not so wonderful. It's not so wonderful. Okay. So just keep that in mind that you're still going to get the money back, which is good. It goes into an HRA, which is not as good as the HSA, but at least it's something. So what I'm trying to say is that even people who have Medicare should be looking at these high deductible plans. You're right. You can't make future contributions, but you could also I'm sorry. You're right. You cannot make future contributions, but number one, you have lower premiums. And number two, they will still give you money into an HRA. So there definitely is a benefit. Okay. Now, can you do an HSA and an FSA at the same time? Can you do both an HSA and FSA at the same time? And the answer is no. You cannot do HSA and FSA at the same time, but you could do HSA together with the Lex FSA. Remember that Lex FSA, the limited expense that only covers dental and vision? We were wondering about that one. We were like, why would someone do a Lex FSA compared to a regular FSA? First of all, the Lex FSA only covers dental and vision. The regular FSA already covered dental and vision and everything else. Second of all, the Lex FSA forces you into a high deductible plan. The regular FSA does not force you into a high deductible plan. So why would someone choose a Lex FSA over a regular FSA? I think the answer has become abundantly clear. Who's going to choose a Lex FSA over a regular FSA? Very simple. The person who's looking at the regular FSA and comparing it to the HSA. And when you compare a regular FSA to HSA, you see that HSA has all the advantages. The HSA is just like the FSA, but it has steroids. It's completely beefed up with all the advantages. Unbelievable. That person who's doing the HSA, that's the person who could do the Lex FSA. So that's why somebody would do a Lex FSA over a regular FSA, because they're not interested in the regular FSA. They would rather have all the benefits of the HSA, and then on top of those benefits, they could do the Lex FSA. If you add it all up, think about what this means. You could put $8,300 into your HSA. Let's say a catch-up contribution of $1,000, so it's $9,300, and then you put an additional $3,200 into your Lex FSA for any dental and vision expenses. So that is $12,400. Where are we? No, $12,500. $12,500 of income that you're not going to owe taxes on. Come on. This is a killer tag team combination. Killer. Now, I mentioned that there are three categories of people who wouldn't do HSA. There is one category that should not do HSA. Who should not do it? I mean, I'm making it sound like HSA is the best thing in the world. So who should do the HSA? And the answer is those who have high recurring medical expenses that take them out of network. Somebody who has high recurring medical expenses, listen very carefully. It has to be high recurring expenses that take you out of network, specifically out of network. And the reason why I say it has to take you out of network is because if you are in network, you'll probably have lower out-of-pocket exposures. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, somebody, for example, we just saw for the catastrophic limit. So for the Blue Cross Blue Shield standard plan, it was $12,000, and for the high deductible plan, it's $10,000. So what that means is, if somebody's having very high medical expenses, they're actually going to have more out-of-pocket exposure with the Blue Cross Blue Shield standard plan than they would with the high deductible plan. The only reason why they would not do the high deductible plan is if they're seeing practitioners that are out of network. If you are out of networks, then maybe you want to entertain a plan that has lower catastrophic limits. And as I mentioned before, I want to share with you guys a screen, the health insurance plans. There are some health insurance plans that are not high deductible plans, but they do have very low out-of-pocket exposure. So let me show you. I'll give you guys one example. So anybody here who has high recurring out-of-pocket expenses, you may want to look at a plan that has low catastrophic exposures. Here's one, NALC, the high option. So the National Association of Letter Carriers. Okay, so this is a plan that has a $5,000 out-of-pocket exposure, out-of-pocket maximum. Okay, you can look at other plans to see what their out-of-pocket exposures are. I'm just giving you guys that as an example. If somebody has high recurring out-of-pocket exposures, so then they may be best off with what's it called? You may be better off with a non-high deductible plan. Okay, I hope I'm making sense in all this. I hope you guys are following me in my thinking. So essentially what I'm introducing you guys to today is something that works just like FSA, but it has many advantages. It has so many advantages, and the advantages are worth so much money. If somebody is not doing this, it really begs the question, why are you not doing this? Okay? I would certainly say this. If there's anybody in this class that is not maxing out their FSA, so I'll give you guys a litmus test. So anybody in this class who is not maxing out their FSA, that means you're not putting in the maximum every year to the FSA. That means you're not incurring $3,200 of medical expenses. So if you are not maxing out your FSA, you're probably going to be saving money with the HSA. If you don't reach your deductible, you'll probably be saving money with the HSA. If you don't know the name of your primary care physician, HSA is a slam dunk for you. Okay, so the people who have relatively low out-of-pocket expenses, okay, they don't reach the deductible. Even if they do reach the deductible, even if they hit the FSA max of $3,200, but if they're just spending $3,200 of out-of-pocket medical over the course of the year, they're probably going to be saving much more money by switching to an HSA. Okay. However, somebody who is experiencing high recurring out-of-pocket expenses, and a lot of those expenses are not dental and vision, and a lot of those expenses are being taken out of network. So those people should not do the high deductible HSA plan. Maybe they should look at a different plan where the doctors are in network and you have lower catastrophic exposure. Okay, that was a mouthful. And I do see we have some questions waiting for me in the chat box, and I'm happy to turn to those questions. But before I turn to those questions, I do want to mention that this class does not happen in a vacuum. It happens because I have people that are supporting the work that I do. If you want to become a client or a member, the way to start that process is by requesting a complimentary one-on-one session. Okay, I just posted it in the sidebar, so you guys probably see in the sidebar. You have the ability to meet with me or meet with one of the members of my team. I have other advisors in my team that have a combined financial planning experience of about 60 years, a little bit less than 60 years. Okay, some of us with 20 years. I'm actually the junior, so to speak, in the group. With the least amount of combined years, but compared to the other guys, we have a combined of 60 years of experience. And if anybody here is interested in meeting with myself or a member of my team, the way you request the complimentary session is by clicking on that Learn More button in the sidebar. If you click on it right now, it'll take you to a web page, and on that web page, you can request a one-on-one consult. In fact, if anybody here is not able to see that link in the sidebar, I'm going to post it in the chat box. Here comes the link in the chat box. Here it comes. 1, 2, 3, bang! So anybody here anybody here who is able to click that link, I would tell you to click on that link now, because at the end of the class, the link is going to disappear and you're not going to have access to it. So I'll tell you to click on that link right now. It'll take you to the webpage. You can request a one-on-one consultation. Okay. And by the way, I very much appreciate you guys joining me today. Let me turn my attention to the questions. I see I have some questions. I see Andy's asking, can a non-Medicare worker contribute to an HSA if their non-working spouse is on Medicare? Yes, Andy. So for example, let's say you're still working and your spouse is retired and your spouse is already on Medicare. Can you make HSA contributions even though your spouse is on Medicare? Yes, you can. However, the thing is that because your spouse is on Medicare, you cannot make contributions for them. So you're going to make the contributions for yourself. So meaning instead of making contributions of $8,300, you'll make the contribution of $4,150. Okay. But Andy, that's just if it's you and your spouse on the plan. Let's say it's you, your spouse, and a child on the plan. So then since there's 2 people that are on the plan that are not covered by Medicare, then you could do the full $8,300 contribution. Okay, let me go back to the chat. And I see I have a number of questions waiting for me. So Shai has a question. What happens to HSA if in the future you switch to a non-HB? So Shai, great question. The money in your HSA is yours forever. You can even use that money even after you've switched away from a high deductible plan. So for example, Shai, let's say you get Medicare. Medicare is not a high deductible plan. So if you get Medicare, you can use the HSA money to pay your Medicare premiums or pay your out-of-pocket exposure. Okay, fantastic. Mauricio is asking, I don't know how to open HSA. Can you provide guidance? So Mauricio, it's very simple. The way you do it is this open season, you're going to look for the high deductible health insurance plans. So you're going to go to the OPM website and look for the plans that say HDHP, and you will see whether they give you an HSA contribution or not. You'll see that's right over there. And what happens is after you enroll in that plan during open season, they will open an HSA account for you. I'm being very serious. Like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after open season is finished, you're going to get a letter in the mail that has your HSA account information. It's going to have a debit card. It's going to be linked to your HSA account. I see Gary has a question. I have self plus one insurance and retired spouse has Medicare Part A. Yes, Gary, you are eligible, but as I said before, you might not be able to put in the full $8,300. You might only be able to put in the $4,150. Casey is asking, does prescription drug coverage apply immediately or only after pay full deductible? So Casey, it's actually going to vary plan by plan. I know that with my high deductible plan, the one that I'm in, the prescription doesn't have a separate deductible. So it's one deductible that applies both the prescription and to the medical stuff. But again, that's going to vary from plan to plan. So check the numbers carefully. Mauricio is asking, I have small kids, 5 years and 3 years old. Is high deductible still a good idea? So Mauricio, I understand that small kids, people very often go to the doctor, but let's ask a question. How often do you go to the doctor with your kids? Let's say you go to the doctor 3 times a year with each child, and let's say every visit costs you $100 a visit. So 3 times for each child, so that's times 2, so that's 6 visits. Each one costs you $100. That's $600. So you're right. You're going to have to spend $600 out of pocket, but didn't you save $4,000 in premiums? So it's worth it. You're saving $4,000 premiums, even though you spent $600 out of pocket. Okay. Donna is asking, can you include dental expense on HSA? Yes, you can. Joey's asking, don't you have to contribute to HSA on top of that though? You meaning on top of what they contribute? Sure. Meaning you contribute and they contribute. You could contribute $8,300, and listen very carefully. You could speak to your accountant on this. There are mixed opinions on what I'm about to say, so it's a little bit of a gray area. But if you ask me, I think I have proof that what I'm saying is correct. The amount that they contribute to the HSA does not subtract from what you could contribute. The reason is because what they are contributing is not an employer contribution. It is what's called a premium pass-through. Okay. One of the biggest proofs of this is that when you look at your W-2 at the end of the year, you'll see, or you won't see, any mention of your employer contribution to HSA. And the reason is because it's not an employer contribution. Okay. Fine. Fantastic. David, what if there's no high deductible plans in my area? David, are you sure there's no high deductible? I think the GIHA plan is a national plan. I think the mail handlers plan is a national plan. David, I really think that there are high deductible plans throughout the country. Michelle, what happens if you have a carryover with FSA and want to switch to HSA? So Michelle, great question. If you have a carryover with FSA, listen very carefully. You're going to want to switch that carryover to a Lex FSA. So basically what this means is you're going to start a Lex FSA this year. You'll contribute very little, whatever it is that you want, however much for dental and vision. And the money that's left over from your FSA will carry over into the Lex FSA. That's a great question, Michelle. Aklesh is asking, I have HSA from my previous employer. Can I create a second personal HSA? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Donna, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, but I don't see an HSA option in New York. So Donna, could be that the Blue Cross Blue Shield does not offer an HSA option through FEHB in New York. You may have to look at the other plans. Georgiana, the Lex FSA in FSA Fed seems too limited to dental and vision only. That's correct. It doesn't pay insurance premiums. Correct. Does it still worth it to sign up for Lex FSA? So yes. So Georgiana, remember, there's two things I'm discussing. One is the HSA and the other is the Lex FSA. And you could do both. You could do one or the other or both. Joey's asking, is dental covered? Yes, it is. Janet is asking, I am enrolled in HMO, Kaiser. Ooh, maybe I'm not looking into the info properly, but it doesn't seem to be that the HMO offer an HSA. So Janet, you're right. Kaiser does not offer an HSA option. In fact, you may notice that Kaiser is very competitively priced. However, it's the Kaiser structure. Some people love Kaiser, some people don't like Kaiser. But Kaiser is a very competitively priced plan. You're right. They're not going to offer a high deductible plan. Andy's asking, can a non-Medicare worker contribute to an HSA? Okay, so we answered that question. Very good. Lee is asking, I have been enrolled in HSA for 10 years and maybe retire in the next 2 years. Does HDHP impact on the options to choice other than health plan after retirement? No. I mean, so you have your high deductible plan, and that's going to save you money now or in retirement. And Lee, if you ever choose that you want to have Medicare, you can have Medicare with your HDHP. So it really is not going to impact much of your thinking. If anything, it's going to complement any future health insurance that you choose. Marianne is asking, we have recurrent out-of-pocket expenses that exceeds FSA. Is the HSA still a better option, even though we're in network? So Marianne, let me ask you a question. Why are you having so many out-of-pocket expenses in network? Like, for example, are you hitting your out-of-pocket maximum, Marianne, every year? Okay. And if you are hitting your out-of-pocket maximum, would it benefit you to lower your out-of-pocket maximum with one of these high deductible plans? Also, Marianne, are some of your out-of-pocket expenses, are you including dental and vision? Because if you're including dental and vision, you should not count that because you could run dental and vision through a Lex FSA. So Marianne, I only want you to look at the medical expenses, okay? And if you are spending so much money through your medical expenses out of pocket, are you hitting your out-of-pocket maximum? If you are, maybe you'll benefit from lowering your out-of-pocket exposure with a high deductible plan. Jeff is asking, how do you go about paying for Medicare from your HSA? Medicare usually comes directly from SSA check. You're right. You're going to have to submit for reimbursement, Jeff. There is the ability to submit for reimbursement. And guess what? You can even submit in reimbursement retroactively. So, for example, let's say I had a medical expense in 2023. I could submit in 2033 for an expense that I had earlier. So you could submit for a reimbursement from your HSA. Bill, I have secondary health insurance through my wife. Does it still pay to have HDHP as my primary? So, Bill, here's the thing. If your wife's insurance is not high deductible, you will not be able to do HSA. You cannot be covered by a non-high deductible plan. Okay. So Russ is asking, my wife and I are both both feds. Should we both do HSA and the Lex FSA? So Russ, I mean, you guys could do HSA. I feel that HSA is far superior to FSA. And then Russ, if you have any dental or vision expenses, you could run those dental and vision expenses through your Lex FSA. So the first thing you're going to do, Russ, is max out your HSA. And then if you have anything beyond that, you're going to do that in the Lex FSA for dental and vision. Marianne is getting back to me. Husband is heart patient and diabetic with complications. So Marianne, so if you have high out-of-pocket medical, let me ask you something. Maybe it benefits you to lower your out-of-pocket exposure by having a plan with a lower out-of-pocket. So look at the various plans, Marianne. You will see, for example, the plan that I showed you has a $10,000 out-of-pocket. So instead of $12,000, it's only $10,000. So that helps you. But I also showed you the other plan. The other plan has a $5,000 out-of-pocket. So you may want to choose, look at the plans carefully, Marianne. It sounds like there may be a lot of out-of-pocket exposures. Maybe the HSA might not be best for you. Maybe a plan that has a much lower out-of-pocket exposure might be the best way for you to go. Okay. I'm very, very grateful for you guys joining me today. Once again, let me remind you, if anybody here has any questions, they could request a one-on-one consult with my team. The way to request that one-on-one consult is via the link that I posted on the side. And I'm going to post it again in the chat box. Here it comes in the chat box. 1, 2, 3, bang! Okay. Anybody who registered for this event is going to get a replay of this event sent to them right after the event ends. So you're going to get a link to the replay so you'll be able to watch it again. And if I could be a resource to you guys going forward, just let me know. Click on that link right now. It takes you to the web page. You can request your complimentary session. And I wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving, a happy holiday season. May you have a fantastic remainder of 2023, and may 2024 be a year of blessing for all. All the best, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. Very grateful. All the best.